Apparently, the human brain's first response to mild discomfort is not call a doctor, but ask Google if this tingling means I have 48 hours left to live. Somewhere between why does my elbow itch and is blinking too much a sign of organ failure, we collectively decided that a search bar is basically medical school, just faster, cheaper, and wildly more dramatic. And the confidence, the absolute confidence. One headache, and suddenly we're cross-referencing rare tropical diseases like we just got back from a documentary expedition. But trust me, the things people have actually typed into that little white box, this is just the warm-up. 1. Why does my left eyelid twitch? Am I dying? I love how we've collectively decided that a microscopic muscle spasm is basically the trailer for our tragic biopic. The eyelid twitches for 3 seconds, probably because you slept 4 hours and drank coffee like it's a competitive sport. And suddenly you're deep in a forum from 2009 where someone named Dragonslayer77 insists it was the first sign of a rare neurological collapse. I've seen people escalate from tiny flutter to write my will faster than a Netflix true crime intro. The irony? The most common cause is stress. And what does Googling it at 2 a.m. create? More stress. So, congratulations. The search didn't diagnose you, it sponsored the symptom. 2. Why does my heart skip a beat? Oh, you mean the occasional harmless palpitation that happens to most humans? No, clearly it's the dramatic prelude to a cardiac documentary narrated in slow motion. We ignore our bodies all year, but the second our chest does something slightly unscripted, we're convinced we're starring in a medical emergency. I've watched people Google this while chugging energy drinks like they're training for the caffeine Olympics. The search results? A buffet of worst-case scenarios. You wanted reassurance, but instead, you got an encyclopedia of catastrophic possibilities. And now your heart is racing, not because it's failing, but because you just read 3 articles written in 2004 with the word sudden in bold. 3. Why does my stomach hurt after eating? This one is my favorite. We demolish an entire pizza, half a cheesecake, and something neon from a drive-thru, then clutch our abdomen like it's a Shakespearean betrayal. And instead of saying, maybe I overdid it, we type with absolute sincerity, is this internal bleeding? I love the leap, no middle ground, not indigestion, not overeating, straight to organ collapse. The internet, of course, happily suggests everything from food intolerance to ancient digestive curses. Meanwhile, your body is just asking for water, and maybe a vegetable. But no, let's consult strangers online who also ate irresponsibly and now believe gluten is a government conspiracy. 4. Why do I randomly feel tired? Randomly? As if you didn't scroll until 3 a.m., wake up at 6, and survive on vibes and iced coffee. But no, fatigue must be a mysterious cinematic illness. I've seen people reject the obvious, sleep deprivation, because it's boring. They want something rare, something impressive. Chronic mystery syndrome sounds more dramatic than you need a nap. The wild part? The more you read about fatigue online, the more exhausted you feel. It's like your brain says, oh, we're catastrophizing now? Fine, here's more tired. 5. Why does my arm feel numb when I sleep on it? This one amazes me every time. You cut off circulation like you're testing physics. Wake up with a temporary dead arm. And instead of thinking, maybe gravity, you're convinced you've unlocked a neurological disorder. I've seen people wiggle their fingers for 10 seconds and then immediately search early paralysis signs. The human body has been handling basic blood flow for thousands of years, but sure, last night was different. This time it's historic. And instead of admitting you slept like a folded lawn chair, you're bracing for a dramatic diagnosis. Give it 30 seconds. The arm wakes up. Unlike your critical thinking. 6. Why does my throat hurt after yelling at a concert? This one has confidence. You scream lyrics like you're auditioning for a stadium tour, inhale questionable air, hydrate exclusively with soda, and then act shocked that your throat feels like sandpaper. The Google search reads like betrayal. Sudden throat pain, no reason. No reason. I respect the denial. The body is not confused. It knows exactly what happened. But we'd rather imagine a mysterious viral invasion than admit we treated our vocal cords like a rental car. 7. Why do I feel dizzy when I stand up fast? Because you stood up fast. That's it. That's the explanation. But no, we type it like we've uncovered a glitch in the matrix. I've seen people describe basic blood pressure shifts like they just experienced a supernatural event. Everything went black for 2 seconds. Yes, that's your body adjusting, not the opening scene of a medical drama. Drink water, move slower. Maybe don't live exclusively on caffeine and vibes. The dizziness fades. The Google history, unfortunately, remains. 8. Why does my eye hurt after staring at a screen all day? I don't know. Maybe because you've been 10 inches from a glowing rectangle since sunrise. But instead of blaming the 9-hour doom scroll marathon, we Google sudden eye pressure serious? I admire the commitment to ignoring the obvious. We'll accept blue light glasses, productivity hacks, even medieval herbal drops, but never the radical solution of blinking and going outside. The body whispers. The internet screams. Guess which one we believe? 9. Why am I bloated? This search usually happens immediately after someone treats dinner like a competitive eating qualifier. The stomach expands slightly, like it's designed to, and suddenly we're diagnosing ourselves with rare digestive syndromes. I've seen people Google bloating while still chewing. There's no pause, no reflection, just instant medical suspicion. Meanwhile, the body is simply processing the 5-course emotional decision you just made. 10. Why does my back hurt? This one is bold because the answer is almost always, you sit like a shrimp. Hours hunched over a laptop, zero stretching, posture resembling a question mark, and then shock. Absolute shock. I've watched people scroll through spine diagrams like they're studying for a licensing exam, convinced their vertebrae are staging a rebellion. No rebellion, just gravity and neglect. But sure, let's consider exotic spinal syndromes before we consider standing up. 11. Why do I sweat at night? This one gets dramatic fast. You pile on blankets, crank the heat, sleep in a hoodie, and wake up warm. Naturally, you consult the internet as if you've uncovered a rare phenomenon. The body regulating temperature? Suspicious. I've seen people jump straight to ominous explanations when the thermostat was the real villain the entire time. But blaming the heater isn't nearly as cinematic as diagnosing yourself at 3:12 a.m. 12. Why do I get headaches when I don't drink coffee? Because you drink coffee. That's it. That's the cycle. We chemically train our brains, skip a dose, and then act stunned when withdrawal taps us on the forehead. But instead of accepting caffeine dependence, we Google neurological disorders. I've seen people treat missing a latte like a medical emergency. The headache isn't mysterious, it's contractual. 13. Why is my skin breaking out? Usually typed after 3 nights of no sleep, high stress, and a diet that includes something fluorescent. But no, we want a rare explanation. Hormones? Sure. Stress? Maybe. But we prefer something obscure and dramatic. I've seen people scroll past lack of sleep because it feels too basic. We crave complexity. The skin just wants water. We give it conspiracy theories. 14. Why do my muscles hurt after working out? This one is almost performance art. You voluntarily stress your muscles in ways evolution never intended. And when they respond exactly as designed, you panic. Is this muscle damage permanent? No, it's soreness. It's the receipt for what you did yesterday. But we Google it like we've uncovered a scandal in our own anatomy. The body adapts. The search history accuses. 15. Why does my chest feel tight when I'm anxious? This is where it gets poetic. We experience anxiety, actual textbook anxiety, and instead of naming it, we interrogate our organs. I've watched people ignore weeks of stress, racing thoughts, shallow breathing, and then Google cardiac failure because their chest feels heavy during a panic spiral. The body is waving a flag that says slow down. Google hands you a megaphone that says catastrophe. And somehow, we always believe the louder one. 16. Why does my nose run when it's cold outside? I've seen people step into winter air, feel their nose drip like it always has since the invention of weather, and immediately assume their immune system has filed for bankruptcy. The body reacting to temperature? Suspicious. Clearly this is an exotic virus that activates only below 40 degrees. I love how we refuse to believe in basic biology. Blood vessels constrict, mucus shifts, Physics happens, and we're online typing like we've uncovered a rare seasonal curse. No, you're not suddenly allergic to oxygen. It's called being a mammal in winter. But sure, let's panic search instead of grabbing a tissue like every generation before us somehow managed to do without Wi-Fi. 17. Why do my hands shake after too much coffee? This one feels almost poetic. You ingest liquid adrenaline, triple shot, no water, maybe on an empty stomach, and then stare at your trembling fingers like they've betrayed you personally. I've watched people Google this while actively holding the cup that caused it. The denial is Olympic level. We'll consider neurological disorders before we consider that 4 espressos before noon might be excessive. The search results read like a medical thriller, but the real culprit is sitting in a cardboard sleeve with your name spelled wrong. The shaking isn't mysterious. It's caffeine saying, "You wanted energy? Here's a preview of a small earthquake." 18. Why do I feel sick after reading about symptoms? This one is my favorite psychological plot twist. You look up mild nausea, read 3 worst-case scenarios, and suddenly you feel worse. Congratulations, you've unlocked health anxiety, DLC. I've seen people convince themselves they have diseases they didn't even know existed 10 minutes earlier. The brain is incredibly suggestible. Feed it panic, and it will deliver matching sensations. But instead of recognizing that anxiety can create physical symptoms, we double down and search again. It's like trying to put out a fire with gasoline and then blaming the house for being flammable. 19. Why do my ears ring in silence? I admire the shock here. You sit in total quiet, and your nervous system, always humming slightly, becomes audible. Instead of thinking, oh, bodies make noise, we assume we've developed a rare auditory disorder overnight. I've seen people sit in a silent room for the first time all week and panic because they can hear something subtle. Modern life is so loud that silence feels suspicious. But the faint ringing? Usually normal. What's not normal is Googling it at 1 a.m. and discovering entire communities who are absolutely certain the end is near. 20. Why does my leg bounce when I'm sitting? I love this one because it's the body's version of fidgeting and we treat it like a structural defect. I've seen people stare at their own knee like it's operating independently. Newsflash, it's called nervous energy. You've been caffeinated, stressed, and motionless for hours. Of course something is going to vibrate. But no, we Google uncontrollable leg movement serious, as if the FBI should be notified. Sometimes your body just needs movement, not a diagnosis. 21. Why do I get hiccups randomly? Randomly is doing a lot of work here. You inhale food like you're being timed, swallow air, maybe laugh mid-bite, and suddenly your diaphragm spasms. Instead of saying, I ate like a vacuum cleaner, you consult the internet. I've watched people treat hiccups like coded messages from their organs. Relax, it's a muscle glitch, not a cosmic warning. The human body has occasional bloopers. We just insist on turning them into plot twists. 22. Why does my eye blur when I stare too long? Because you're staring too long. That's it. I've seen people fixate on a screen without blinking and then act betrayed when their vision rebels. The eye literally dries out. It's not staging a coup. It just wants moisture. But the search query reads like a mystery novel. Sudden vision change serious? Yes, it's serious. You've been scrolling for 3 straight hours. Try blinking. Revolutionary concept. 23. Why do I feel my pulse in my neck? This one fascinates me. We suddenly discover we have arteries and assume it's new. I've seen people sit quietly, become aware of their heartbeat, and spiral because they can feel it. Congratulations, you're alive. That rhythmic thump, that's not ominous. That's biology doing its job. But awareness feels suspicious, so we Google it, like we've uncovered a design flaw in our own wire. 24. Why do I feel lightheaded after skipping meals? I respect the commitment to confusion here. You don't eat. Blood sugar drops. You feel weird. And instead of connecting those 3 dots, we open a search tab. I've seen people type sudden faint feeling cause while proudly announcing they haven't eaten since yesterday. The body runs on fuel. Remove fuel, engine sputters. This is not advanced medicine. It's common sense with better marketing. 25. Why do my joints crack? This one has drama built in. You stretch, something pops, and suddenly you're convinced you've aged 40 years in 10 seconds. I've watched people Google arthritis before they've even finished the stretch. Most joint cracking is just gas bubbles shifting. It's less degenerative collapse and more carbonated skeleton. But we hear a sound and assume decay. The body makes noise. So does your house. Neither is automatically collapsing. 26. Why do I get random chills? I love how we treat temperature regulation like it's a conspiracy. You're slightly cold or anxious, or your body is adjusting, and goosebumps appear. Instead of grabbing a sweater, we Google sudden chills, serious illness. I've seen people ignore the air conditioning blasting directly at them and jump straight to rare diagnoses. Sometimes the explanation is not cinematic. Sometimes it's just cold. 27. Why does my chest hurt when I slouch? Because you're folding yourself like a lawn chair. I've seen people compress their ribcage for hours and then act shocked when breathing feels tight. The body is not designed for shrimp posture, but instead of adjusting position, we consult the internet like we're submitting a bug report. Sit up. Breathe. You've not discovered a new syndrome. You've discovered gravity. 28. Why do I feel anxious after drinking? This one always surprises me. Alcohol disrupts sleep, chemistry, and mood. And then we wake up wondering why our brain feels like it's buffering. I've seen people Google sudden anxiety no reason the morning after a night of enthusiastic hydration. There is a reason. It has a receipt. But we'd rather suspect mysterious mental shifts than acknowledge that tequila sometimes comes with emotional interest rates. 29. Why does my skin itch after I Google symptoms? This is where it gets beautifully absurd. You read about rashes and suddenly your arm tingles. The power of suggestion is undefeated. I've watched people scroll through dermatology images and then swear they feel something spreading. The mind is incredibly talented at imitation, but instead of recognizing that anxiety amplifies sensation, we double-check the mirror and open another tab. It's like horror movies, but starring your epidermis. 30. Why does my heart beat faster when I think about it? Because you're thinking about it. Attention heightens awareness. I've seen people monitor their pulse like they're guarding a national treasure. The more you focus, the more intense it feels. Then comes the search. Heart rate increase suddenly? No, you just zoomed in on it. The body responds to attention the way a microphone responds to feedback. Get too close. It gets loud. 31. Why do I feel better after I stop Googling? This one is almost tragic comedy. I've watched people close their browser and suddenly breathe easier. The symptoms calm down, the panic fades, and instead of connecting that relief to the fact that they stopped reading catastrophic scenarios, they call it coincidence. The internet didn't cure you, it just stopped scaring you. Sometimes the most effective treatment isn't a rare supplement or hidden diagnosis. It's logging out before you convince yourself that blinking is a terminal event. So apparently the greatest medical breakthrough of our time is a search bar and unchecked imagination. Because nothing says stable adult like diagnosing yourself between ads and forum posts from 2008. If you've ever spiraled from mild discomfort to prepare the documentary, congratulations, you're among friends. Drop the most ridiculous symptom search you've ever made in the comments. Let's vote for the dumbest one. And if you enjoy watching humanity panic in high definition, you know what to do.